Hey YouTube, Zark the Cheese here, and I'm just going to be starting my new series, Introduction to Competitive Pokemon, because, I don't know, it's something I've really wanted to do for a while, and I think it would help a lot of people who are interested in this particular, like, area of playing Pokemon. And a lot of people play Pokemon very casually. They just try and beat the Elite Four, or they play kind of like semi-competitively with their friends, like, oh, my Blastoise is so gonna kick your Charizard's ass, and yeah, that's fun, but there's something more. There's competitive Pokemon. There's a lot of things you have to learn, and it's really hard to get into, but it's really rewarding because it's a different mindset, and everything you do counts, and you feel really good when you get good at it. I don't really know how to explain it, but if you're into competitive games, a lot of this is something you'll already know. If you don't really know competitive games, well then you've come to the right place, because I'm going to explain it as best as I can. And competitive Pokemon is 2 teams of 6 Pokemon facing off against each other, all level 100, unless otherwise specified, which you don't have to worry about that now. We'll get to that later, and I guess I'm going to be saying that a lot because there are a lot of things about this that I'm going to start to explain, but then I can't really fully explain yet. So, yeah, we'll get to that later. It's kind of be my catchphrase, I guess. I don't know. It's a sucky catchphrase. Never mind. Anyways, so the mindset you kind of have for competitive Pokemon is you're playing to win, and you need to know everything you can, make the optimal decisions in every instance you can, and while it may seem kind of insane the lengths you have to go to win, and you might say, like, why do I even want to care about this? This is not worth my time. Well, if you want to win, then everyone else is going to be doing these things, so you might as well do them too if they can give you an edge. And in time you'll come to realize how important they are. But just starting off with general competitive Pokemon, every turn you have the choice to use one of your 4 moves unless they're locked up for some reason, which don't worry about that, I guess, but there are several reasons you might be locked up, but generally you have access to all 4 of your moves, and you have the option to switch. And I think since this is kind of an introductory video, and everyone kind of knows what moves generally are, that's a good place to start. And so you have 3 different types of moves. You have your physical moves, which are damaging moves that are like punches and kicks and body slam and things like that, where you're actually physically hitting the opponent with either like yourself or like a projectile or something. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You're hitting them. And then there are special moves, which are like the magical attacks, I guess I would call it, for people who don't really know, which are like Flamethrower and Energy Ball and Thunderbolt and Shadow Ball, things like that are kind of just like magical energy things. And it actually is a big difference between those 2 types of moves, because certain Pokemon have very high attack stats but very low special attack stats, and vice versa, or sometimes the Pokemon you're going up against has a very high defense stat but a very low special defense stat, or vice versa. And so it's kind of important to know which side of the spectrum, that's kind of the lingo used, which side of the spectrum you're hitting from, and like how Pokemon are oriented defensively, things like that. So yeah, there is a big difference between those 2. And then the 3rd type of move is the broadest category. It's support moves, and it's moves that don't do direct damage, but there are so many types that you can't even really begin to classify them, because there are just so many moves that don't fit any categories, and so many moves that are weird. But just to give you a little idea of what those are like status moves, stat-changing moves for yourself, like Swords Dance, or for your opponent, like Screech, but competitively, you really only use moves that affect your stats, because your opponent can switch out and get rid of those stat changes on themselves. but I guess there are certain uses to them. But generally don't worry about those. Then there are other moves that change how the game works. There that pseudo status your opponent that aren't really statuses, but they work like statuses, like confusion. There are moves that change the order in which things go. There are weathers that change the effects of certain moves and activate certain abilities and make certain move types stronger. And there are entry hazards that hurt Pokemon upon switching in. There are the opponent's Pokemon. Then there are moves that make your opponent switch out, that make them do a bunch of different things, or that can lock up some of their moves. Like I said before, but those you don't really have to worry about those right now. I guess whatever. I hate saying that because it makes me seem stupid. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there are a lot of types of those, and those are, you kind of can't worry too much about those. Those will come more naturally later when you're building sets and coming up with what your Pokemon are actually going to do. As far as attacking moves, though, when you pick attacking moves, you generally want to go for something called, you generally want Stab, which is same type attack bonus. So, like, for example, Politoed's a water type. Politoed's going to want to have Stab, same type attack bonus moves, which are water moves for Politoed because it's a water type. And that gives you a 1.5 times boost on those moves. And generally you learn higher power moves of Stab moves than non-Stab moves. So Stab moves tend to be very good to have on all Pokemon, except if their Stab types are really bad. But generally you want Stab moves. And then you want to go for something called type coverage, or just coverage for short, which is how you're going to hit Pokemon who can take your Stab move and threaten you. So, for example, Celebi often runs a grass move because it's Stab, and it helps Celebi do its job of taking on water types that would threaten your team. And so it's typically going to carry that grass move, and then it has a lot of options to hit Pokemon who can take that grass move. It commonly runs Hidden Power Fire because it beats Steel types, especially Scissor. Scissor is a huge switch into Celebi because it can take grass moves, threaten it out with a 4-time super effective Bug move, and get switch initiative by using U-turn, because you use U-turn and you either kill them or they switch out and you get to U-turn into whatever you want to beat that Pokemon. That's just a strategy that's really common, and I guess it's good to be aware of it early on in learning competitive Pokemon. And then, so yeah, your type effectiveness is big. You're 2 times super effective against, like, there's a chart that I'm going to put up right now. Every type has certain 2 times super effective and 2 times, or resisted, I guess, yeah, 2 times not very effective against certain types. And then when you have double types, for example, Celebi's grass move or Celebi's fire move versus Scissor, the grass move is 4 times resisted and the fire move is 4 times weak, or 4 times effective, I guess I should say, because both of Scissor's types either resist or are weak to that type of move. And so it does stack. And then you have base power, which is just how powerful moves are. For example, Quick Attack is really low at 40. Earthquake is pretty high at 100. You get different moves have varying power, and it's pretty much proportional. So you can put these things together. For example, Gengar's Stab Shadow Ball is 80 base power, which multiplied by 1.5 is 120, which is its effective base power. And then Focus Blast is a fighting type move that it commonly carries with 120 base power. So they're equal, kind of, because of the stab, but Focus Blast generally has, or technically has higher base power, but generally it's the same. And so it's good to be aware of those things. For example, if you're in a situation where you have your Politoed up against a Ferrothorn, that's what it's called. Ferrothorn resists water, but and it's neutral to ice. So you're generally going to say, oh, ice move. It's not resisted, so let's go for the ice move, the ice beam. But when you look at it, the hydro pump is actually significantly more powerful because of stab, and because of higher base power, and because of the rain boost. And weathers do change certain types of moves. Weather is something we'll get into later because that's a big, big thing, and I don't want to get into it right now. But generally, if you are if you have a boosting weather and stab, and it's a higher power base move like hydro pump is, it's 120 versus ice beam's 95. That is going to overpower the ice beam and just be better because there's so many boosts applied to it. And it's little things like this that you might say that doesn't make a big difference, but in competitive, they might. You don't know. Maybe that extra 10% damage, it's probably even more than that, but even if it was just 10% damage, maybe that extra 10% damage means the difference between you taking out that Ferrothorn next turn and it taking you out in 2 turns and you losing. So, there are a lot of things you have to learn, and competitive Pokemon, it's a big thing, and you have to have a lot of knowledge and a lot of intuition about certain things that you might not have ever thought of or even known existed. So I hope this was a good introduction to the game, and I hope it was just kind of got you into the competitive mindset a little bit if you weren't there already. And I hope that you like this. Please leave me some suggestions for what I should do to the next episode. I think I'm going to do something about choosing Pokemon and what makes Pokemon good. So, yeah, I'll see you soon. And please like, comment, subscribe to my channel.